Hello, my name's Carol Genshaft, and it's my pleasure today to be talking with Bert Stevens, whose name is synonymous with the Huntington Garden here in beautiful Schiller Park. And Bert is going to start out telling us a little bit about herself and how she got to German Village, and then we're going to find out how this magnificent garden got started.
Well, I moved here probably 24 years ago, since I have to admit how I'm getting older. And the first year I was here, Sue Larson approached me about working on a garden in the park. It was part of the $1 Million campaign that the Society launched, and they had approached the Huntington about money for the campaign. Dorothy Brownlee, at that point, who moved to the village eventually, was the person we approached, and they asked her if she'd finance a furnace for the meeting house. And she said, why would I ever want to pay for a furnace? Find me a garden and we'll talk. And that was when the beginning of this garden.
Had you had a great interest in gardening before that?
I've always loved to garden. I came from Bexley because Ned Merkel refused to show me any more houses anywhere else. And have loved it ever since, but I've always loved to garden. So we met Sue Larson and the city and some other people at Janet Druin's house. Sharon Hanger and Sue Larson and myself were the people who basically designed the garden after they came up with a spot for it. So that started at Janet Druin's house. It must have been 92, and then the garden was planted in 93.
And did you, actually, did you work with any nurseries or to plan it, or did you just do it yourself?
We did the planning all ourselves, which is pretty amazing because none of us knew much about, formally about design. And Oakland Park was the supplier of all the planting material for that time, and they were helpful in things that would grow here and native plants, and that was part of our thinking, that we wanted native plants, we wanted German hybrids if we could find them, and so the garden represented the German and American cultures, which were part of the village.
And tell us a little, well, at that time, the irrigation system was put in too?
Yes.
Right at the beginning?
Yes. This was all grass and dirt. There was nothing here.
Wow.
So the walkway to Schiller was part of the design, and they wanted to make it a year-long garden. So the quotes were put here and those were picked by the Lord Mayor of Dresden. Oh. He selected the quotes, cool. And they worked with the Huntington on that. So people in the winter can walk and enjoy not so much the flowers, but the hedge in the garden, the shaping of the garden, and Schiller statue and the quotes and that kind of thing.
So did the Huntington Bank donate part of the funds, or was it all raised?
No, the Huntington Bank donated $35,000, and then the city gave $110,000. So the total cost of this project would have been somewhere around $145,000. And then the Huntington continued to finance the garden for the first 18 or 19 years.
Wow. And so how did you recruit volunteers at the beginning? Did you have as many as you have now? Tell us about that.
Well, we had 82 volunteers
at
the beginning to plant the garden.
Were they called deadheaders then?
Yes, we liked that name. And I think we planted 12,000 plants in several days.
Wow.
I think we figured 1,800 hours, and 82 volunteers later,
wow.
The initial planting was completed. A lot of those were just there to plant.
Just for that initial.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then was there a big celebration and an opening?
Yes, that was October 3rd, German-American Day of that year, 1993. They dedicated the garden and the statue.
So the statue had been here before the garden?
Yes, but it was renovated.
And So did lots of people attend the opening?
Yeah, quite a few. It was a pretty nice collection of the community and celebration of what the volunteers had accomplished. That was a fun day.
I'll bet.
Right.
How many volunteers are there today?
Around 40.
Uh-huh.
Not all just here every week, but some with certain specific tasks they do, and others that come weekly and put up with my, what do they call me? Task mastering.
Certainly you have to be to do this. So tell us a little bit about the plantings. How has it changed over the years?
It hasn't changed a whole lot. Originally the diamond, the triangle, was lavender.
Oh.
And that became pretty nightmarish because we couldn't control it. So then we went to what we had originally thought about was the boxwood. We went back to that, and that's been nice because it looks pretty in the winter. And then we decided we wanted it to be a theme garden, which is a real niche, probably in the whole state of Ohio, and to show the coming together of the two cultures, the German culture and the American culture. So you have some of all flowers from Germany originated in the United States, as much as we can do it. But in the middle of the triangle are, as much as we can do, the color of the American and German flags. The first bed and the third bed are mirrors of each other, and they're the yellow and the German flag and the white. Black is pretty tough, and red looked awful in them. So then the middle bed is the colors of the American flag, the red, white, and blue. It's a nice story to tell.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people notice it exactly. But
they don't.
We know.
We have to tell them. But we have lots of tour groups through and lots of visitors, and I think we probably need to come up with some signage somewhere that tells that story. I say that every year. Ask me if I get it done. No, but it's one of those things that may get done someday soon.
Have there been any big challenges? Have either money-wise or something happening to a certain kind of plant, insect-wise, that kind of thing?
We have failures. Fortunately, we have the watering system, which helps a great deal. Finances have been tough the last few years because the Huntington chose to use their money elsewhere, which meant we had to go out and raise the money. But we've done well. We have a nice start on the endowment. And I do have people that have just said, just send me an invoice every year, just remind me. Because I think people are thrilled with the garden. They know how hard everyone works as a volunteer, and that's appreciated.
I know. I think it's just beloved by so many people. I bet you have no idea how many brides have been photographed here.
Probably not, but I keep having to say, be careful when you're walking in there.
Right.
Only hit the dirt. So, no, it's a wonderful place for wedding photographs.
And tell us, I know that some of the plants are actually wintered, taken out and stored elsewhere and then brought back. Is that true?
Some. And we take them now to Franklin Conservatory. We did take them to the greenhouse on Whittier, which is no longer there. So we try to really limit that. And once in a while we house them in a small greenhouse around the village, but we try to keep things that are mostly not tropicals.
So Franklin Park actually is a little bit of a partner in this.
Right. Franklin Park houses a limited number because they've got all their own plants to house, so we try not to.
And is there an agreement with the city at all, like Parks and Recreation? Do they help at all, or is it pretty much completely independent of the city?
The flowering party, the flowers are the flower beds. They do help with the watering. When something goes wrong with the system, they step in. They helped us with new plaques for the benches. You know, they do step in where they can, but they originally were very, very specific that they did not have the facilities or the people to have a garden here. They wanted to just put in some shrubbery and let it go. And village chose not to do it that way.
How does the garden tie into the annual tour, the house tour?
It depends. Some years this garden's on, some years Frank Betch is on, and some years neither of them are on. But if there's a house on the park, everybody sees the garden,
right,
pretty much. Sometimes we do make it garden specific, which is nice because people come and they can sit here and drink a bottle of water, eat their lunch, and the noontime visitors are just fun, and a lot of people here at noontime.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful place to be, to have lunch. And now that they're redoing Stewart School, that'll kind of bring even more attention to the area.
Right, and it'll get the kids back over here, which we've done before, doing short tours of the garden and talking about, showing them on the plaques where plants originated in different countries and the dates of that origination, which, you know, allows them to do some learning and thinking about that. So it'll be fun to get them back. And I'm really thrilled the neighborhood kids get to come back.
Oh, that'll be
to
great.
Stewart. So I think that's
We're all
a real
forward
plus.
to that.
Yeah.
Tell us anything else about the garden. Which are the varieties that are specifically German?
We have Clausculetto, which is a stokesia that originated there. Oh gosh, now you're going to put me on the spot. Do I remember?
Well,
that specific balloon flower, which is called Comanche, and we can't buy it anymore, that was originated in Germany. And after that, I don't remember.
well, it certainly is. It's so beautiful. And it's a mixture of perennials and annuals.
And annuals. And you have to have both to have the continuing color.
For the future, for the garden, just to keep going?
Just to keep going. And improve it and come up with new ideas for what to do with it. You know, I love the boxwood. It's an issue, getting it trimmed, because it's just too much for the deadheaders. When you've got 14,000 plants to care about, and even if you have 40 people show up, which doesn't happen anymore, it's just a lot. So, and inflation, the plants keep costing more, and et cetera, et cetera. So if the money's in place, the volunteers can be found.
How long is the season? When do you start with the volunteers getting the garden ready? And how late do you go?
As early in April as we can start. And we try to be done by Veterans Day, the 1st of November. Before, if I can figure out how to do it, because I don't like cold weather. But some people do, and they want to wait and wait. But I'm done when middle of September, I'm ready to say, let's get going here.
And are there teams that work in specific spots? Or
yes, each of the 3 beds has their own team. Dave Gaumer is in charge of the first bed, the second bed's mine, and the third bed Linda Friedman manages. And the deadheaders are assigned by bed. And we used to assign them by area, and we still do some of that. Like the inside on the west side is your responsibility, because then they take a lot of pride in how their section looks.
I have my corner.
You have your corner up there. And it always looks nice.
We hope. Anything else you'd like to tell us? Tell us when you first moved to German Village 23 or 24 years ago. How has it changed? Is it growing better? Things you miss? Anything?
You know, I think the biggest thing is for people like me not to realize it has to change. You know, it isn't the way it was, and I can't impose my thinking on people who are looking for some changes. I think the biggest concern I have is we have a greater number of people with a lot more green stuff in their pockets, and that seems to create more of an issue for volunteers.
What do you mean?
Well,
exactly?
I think they're busy. There's 2 people working. and they just don't have a lot of time. Or they're willing to support, but the volunteer base has been an issue. And the other thing that concerns me is the footprints on the properties, that houses get too big and there's not enough green space left to make them fit in well and not look like, not be jarring. I guess that's the word I want to use. So those two things, the volunteer base and being sure we remain a welcoming, warm neighborhood, which sometimes I think when houses get too big and too showy, it's a different look.
Right. Makes for an interesting house tour.
Yes. And that's another story.
But you know, the fact is that so many of the houses here were built by people who didn't have extraordinary means.
Right.
And they aren't, for the most part, they're small. And
Yes.
then you get people that want to move here because they love the village and they want more room. So
it's a big issue, and
yeah.
a lot of the little cottages got swallowed up into much bigger structures. And some of them are beautiful. I just, I like the footprint to remain reasonable.
And have you been active in the society at all, or?
Oh yes, yeah. I work on the House and Garden Tour, and I'm on the development committee, and we need to get young people involved, and it's coming. I mean, I went to Darcy's tea the other day, and I looked around, I thought, who are all these people? You know, and they're young, right? And it's great, and you're thinking, good. You know, that's what we need, that enthusiasm and that youth, and we've got the school set now for young children, and I think we're just
good place.
We're moving ahead. And where else would you want to live?
I can't think of any better place.
I can't either. I mean, it's such a sense of community. People care. If I'm in trouble, there isn't one of my neighbors that wouldn't come to my rescue. And the village surrounds people with loving care when something goes wrong. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place to live.
And it's a beautiful place.
And it's a beautiful place. Well, a lot of people work in the park too. It's a beautiful park. I went on several garden tours last weekend north. I mean, there just isn't anything quite like this that I've seen, and I've traveled a lot of Ohio to look at gardens. And I'm prejudiced, but I just think there isn't much like it.
It's pretty special.
So that's exciting to me.
Great. Well, Bert, thank you for talking with us, and thanks for all you've done. And
you're welcome.
And it's here every day for everybody to appreciate, and we do.
And she's one of my best deadheaders, so here we go.